Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today we are talking about chapter 50. We've made it, guys, chapter 50 of the book one of The Wandering Inn. So this is a full spoiler discussion. I have read and reacted to every single chapter of the rewrite of volume 1 of The Wandering Inn so far on the channel. You can find the playlist down below. We're at chapter 50 now. Pretty big number, but nothing exciting really happens in this chapter. So this feels a bit like one of those bridging Wandering Inn chapters where there's less kind of big story development and more character moments, but the character moments are really good. So it does all kind of balance out, you know? So we start off with Erin having a dream, which seems like it might be a little prophetic, and it's about chess-related stuff, and there's something going on with Klibbich in the dream. I'm sure this will come back to us. It says swords flashing, and cannonballs, and rivers of blood, so I'm sure we'll come back to this, but for now, it seems like it's kind of a bit of a portent, you know? Got to stay hydrated. So, so something about, have to obey my queen is what Klibbich says, and then Erin's like, oh no, something about the king. What does she say about the king? The king is smart, the king, and then she kind of cuts off the dream, and so she knows she was going to say something, but she didn't actually know what she was going to say. So we've got that, and then Erin makes breakfast for Cheeria. She completely misunderstands everyone's dietary requirements, and she reveals that she knows Elvish, but like Lord of the Rings Elvish, not real Elvish. And Cheeria's like, there are no elves. Elves haven't been seen for thousands of years. Are you telling me you're speaking Elvish? And she's like, oh no, I'm joking. So a little bit of interesting lore there. We also find out that Cheeria is not vegan or vegetarian, which Erin kind of expected her to be. She also makes the same mistake with Calruz. She's like, I don't know if you eat beef. And Calruz is like, I'm not a cow, I eat beef. And she offends Calruz like multiple times. She calls him Bull Boy. She calls him like, she accidentally refers to him as cattle. So doesn't, she's not very good with Calruz, and which is a bit annoying. I can imagine being like, I'm not a bloody cow, I'm a Minotaur, and Minotaur's, he's just got a bull head, he's got a human body, and the human body isn't like covered in hair, it's just like bull head, human body, so it's quite funny, but I can imagine how annoyed he would be. Also, everyone tries to kill Torin, the skeleton, so basically every time Torin comes into the room to a new person, the new person's like, oh my god, a skeleton! And everyone has to be like, no, it's okay, he works here. Which is funny. So, yeah, Torin seems to be having a little bit of background development. We also get someone who talks about skeletons later. So Olism comes into the inn later. I mean, we'll come back to that later, actually. We'll talk about that in the time frame that it's actually in. Erin basically uses all of her food to feed the Horns of Hammerhand. There's like 10 of them. So obviously there's the main guys we know, and then there's some extras. And then, Erin asks Calruz if he likes mazes, which is quite funny. She then goes to town because she realizes she's run out of food because the adventurers have eaten so much, because they're always up for a hearty meal, they're adventuring. So I'm having to swig the water a lot because I've got a bit of a cough, and otherwise I'm going to cough all over this video and it'll be a nightmare to edit. So I hope you enjoy swigging water sounds. So yeah, so she goes into town because she's run out of food. She has to get more food. She ends up going to Kershia, and Kershira's like, oh yeah, I actually can't deliver your food today. My runner is busy, so you're going to have to take it back yourself. And then she sees Kalruz, and she calls him Hammer Captain. And she gets Kalruz, the Horns, and the other adventuring groups like Yvlon, I think we went with Yvlon, and Jeriel, and Gregor, and she gets them all to carry all the food back to the inn. And she's like, look, if you wanted to come back to my inn, you can come back to my inn and complain that there's no food and no booze, or you can help me carry the food and the booze and at least eat and drink while you complain about having had to carry it, which is quite funny. And then something about the skeleton. So oh no, that is later. So Erin talks about how it's a lot of work to cook for this many people. So she's cooking for not just the Horns but also their guests, and so the common room is full. So she talks about how the common room is basically full. Pisces turns up and gives Cheery a bit of a frosty reception. Interesting that they both seem to be using frost magic, ice magic. Oh no, wait, Cheery is the ice magic one. He does necromancy. I know he does necromancy, but I thought he also did frost stuff, but I can't remember. So if anyone remembers what his other kind of magic, like his offensive elemental magic, I'm sure he was doing something. Maybe it was wind. But it'd be interesting to see. I really want to know more about the relationship between Cheeria and Pisces. And also, very interesting that Erin is like obsessed at the moment with getting to Wistrom and getting a Wistrom mage to help her go home, but she hasn't like, you know, dogged Pisces about it. She hasn't like I mean, she didn't notice that like Cheeria said, oh, of course, give the Wistrom mage this hard spell to learn, and like you think that Erin would be like pouncing on that. Pisces and Cheeria clearly don't like each other. There's some like hidden resentment there. I do think we must get their backstory eventually, but there's definitely some backstory that I want to see between these two. And then Olism turns up, and there's a quite funny bit where she's like, oh, the narration's like, Erin had forgotten about Olism, and it feels like maybe Pirate Arbor forgot about Olism, and he is the strategos, so the tactician, whatever it is, for Liskor, for the guards, and he's a Drake. We've talked about him before. He has come up for before, but not for... He was basically in like the opening let's teach you guys about chess, and then never really came back. So Olism is back, and he has spent 2 weeks solving the chess puzzle that Erin gave him. So Erin gave him a chess puzzle that she sent to the Strategos guy, the head, the guy who invented chess, and she sent him a chess puzzle. And Olism has been trying to solve it ever since. It's taken him 2 weeks. He hasn't bathed, he hasn't showered, he hasn't changed his clothes, and he's finally solved it, and he's really excited about it. And he says that he leveled twice when he solved it, which is very exciting, because you're like, well, he levels when he sleeps. So he was so excited to like come to Erin to tell her he solved it, and he has like bloodshot eyes or whatever, but he did still sleep after solving it. So that's quite funny. What's up? And he talks about the skeleton. So he's like, oh my god, it's the skeleton, because he's not seen Tauren before. She explains Tauren, and Olism's like, oh, skeletons are kind of pointless, like that's not worth the money for the amount of food that you've been giving Pisces. And Erin's like, and And then he's like, oh yeah, skeletons are rubbish because like they can't follow complex commands, or they can't, and they fall apart. Like as soon as they fall apart, the enchantment goes and things like that. But she's not. Tauren hasn't had any of those issues. So definitely, I mean, we've always said Tauren is different. There's something going on with Tauren, and it does. And Tauren can obviously level, which I think that they say in one of the early chapters that goblins are one of the only monsters that can level. So very interesting. And obviously Tauren is special because Pisces is super smart and clever and super talented. He's just an asshole. And we've seen that Tauren can level. We've seen that he can do these complex tasks. We've seen that he can be completely reduced to a pile of bones and then just reconfigure himself and back to normal. So that's like, I think Olism is like, oh, mages won't, it's like, oh, most mages don't spend the amount of mana that you would need to spend to get a skeleton to do all of this stuff on a skeleton. It's not worthwhile. So that's very interesting. I would like to see more of what's going on there. At the end of the evening, you see the Antinium arrive. So some Antinium workers turn up, and everyone's like, oh, you're not supposed to be able to come here without Pawn, like he's supposed to be the one that takes you to and from. But they're like, oh, Miss Solstice, like, oh, there's a problem. And then they come in, and Pawn has been like pulled apart. He's like missing 2 arms and one of his legs. He's missing an antenna. He's dripping blood everywhere. And this gives Erin like real Klibich death flashbacks. But that's kind of where the chapter ends. So, yeah. Very interesting chapter. And it leads us into something interesting, I think. Next week's chapter, 51. Oh, so next week's 51 is still an Erin chapter, which is cool. I didn't particularly want to go back to Ryoka so quickly. I know I said next week. I'm putting this one out on this video on Wednesday, despite the normal Thursday schedule, because on Thursday I'm going to do one of 2 things. I'm either going to record a video for my birthday, because it is my birthday on Thursday. So I'm either going to record a special birthday video. I had originally thought about doing a birthday book haul, but my wife has informed me that no one is buying me books for my birthday. They're all just giving me some cash so I can choose my own books. So I guess the birthday book haul will have to wait until I have gathered sufficient books to do a haul. Yeah, so I was thinking I would do a birthday video on Thursday. Current thoughts would be like recommending a book for every year I've been alive. That could be fun. But also, that's a lot of books. And that if I only picked books that I had read since I've been doing the channel, that would be like half the books I've read. So maybe not. But maybe we can do something fun. I did think birthday live stream, but also maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, so what I'm going to do is put this one out on Wednesday so that there is a Wandering In episode this week. But then if I do a birthday video, there'll be something on the birthday. But if not, there will just be 2 Wandering Ins this week. I'm not going to replace the birthday video with something else. It'll be replaced Wandering In if I can't think of a good idea to do for birthday stuff. So yeah, I think that'll be fun. What was I gonna say? What's next? I think that's everything. So yeah, another good chapter. Obviously, the dream at the beginning is very important, or else it wouldn't have been in there. It didn't feel like it was like a flavor text dream. It felt like it was really important. And then at the end, obviously something going on with Pawn, which is really exciting. At some point, Erin has to be dragged into this whole going into the ruins mess. That's got to happen, because otherwise it kind of feels like that's what this chapter's been leading to. So yeah, very interested to see what's going on there. I have been told a certain point in the story to start binge reading from. So if I'm like, oh, when you get to this chapter, you're just going to want to binge read it and not take your weekly breaks. I don't know when that is. I've been told it is from the H chapter, which I assume is for the horns. Let's have a look. We're going to have a look right now. You are going to learn with me. So, yeah, so 57 is where apparently it goes mental. And there's 7 chapters there. One of them is a 10k chapter. And then there's 2 interludes, which are about 10k in total. So, yeah, what we'll do is, if I don't know currently whether I will have the mental bandwidth to binge read those 6 chapters, because that will be next month, which will be when SPFBO stuff is happening, I think. Yeah, I think, 6-7 chapters away. Yeah, 7 chapters away. I don't think I will get to that before SPFBO, even if I do a batch week of just reading Wandering In. But I think we've been doing great on this read along. As I said previously, I am planning on doing a week of Wandering In solo, probably in early June. But I will let you guys know at the beginning of the first episode of that week. So basically, it'll be around what my schedule is like and what my availability is like in terms of time to sit down and do these sorts of vids. When we move into book 2, I'll be using the ebook / audiobook and kind of synchronizing back and forth. So I will be listening to the Wandering In probably for a lot of my like chores time or going for a run. So if I'm doing, for example, if I'm going out for a long run or something like that, then you guys might see some more running vlogs. I say more running vlogs. I've not done a Wandering In running vlog, but I have done a running vlog for another book, if I did it for a novella. But I absolutely could do, I could do all of my Wandering In videos while out on a long run. If I had been up to volume 2 in time for a couple of weeks' time, I'm actually running the Bristol Half, so it could have been quite funny to have reviewed a Wandering In chapter whilst running a half marathon race, like with hundreds of thousands of other people around. But it won't be able to do that, unfortunately. Not there yet, and it won't be long enough for me to do another book. But this is a long way of saying loving the Wandering In, looking forward to getting to it. There will be bulk episodes in future, so not bulk episodes, bulk weeks, where there'll be lots of episodes of Wandering In. So keep an eye on the feed, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to chat to me about this chapter, drop down below. Try and make it no future spoilers, please. Somebody has spoiled something for the future. It'd be great if that didn't happen again. Please like this video if you liked it. And as I said, subscribe to be notified whenever the Wandering In goes live. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.